Welcome to Esilux. In this product video, we'll show you how to install the CUC RCB KNX DALI room controller box with WAGO connectors in combination with the PD360i8 LIN presence detector. For comprehensive room control, this device features one DALI business interface, two 230-volt 16-amp switching outputs, two 230-volt PWM outputs, and two analog interfaces. Alongside the option to mount the device on the ceiling, the multi-sensor is also suitable for wall mounting. In addition to detecting presence, the PD360i8 LIN includes a light sensor as well as a humidity and temperature sensor. The data gathered by this sensor is sent to the room controller box, which regulates lighting, heating, ventilation, or air conditioning depending on how the device has been configured. Please note that the room controller box can also be installed by trained personnel, as the device is connected only via secure connections with the exception of the binary outputs. Only authorized personnel are permitted to wire the connectors and install the actuators in compliance with the installation regulations and standards applicable in the country of use. During the installation process, the 5 safety rules must be observed. Please also note that this video depicts the installation process only for the devices with the item numbers shown here. The operating voltage of the room controller box is 230 volts AC. The box can be installed in a suitable location on the ceiling, wall, or ground. Once you have selected a suitable location for the room controller box, screw it into place securely. If required, you can also connect 2 push buttons to manually control the box. These buttons can be easily connected to the detector or directly to the room controller box. The room controller box is connected to the multi-sensor via an RJ45 network cable. You can purchase suitable cables in various lengths from our product range. Insert one end of the cable into the INT bus socket of the room controller box. The detector can be easily installed on a standard flush-mounted box. To install the box in this way, first remove the cover of the detector. Then insert the other end of the network cable into the socket. Once you have screwed the detector tight, place the cover onto the detector. Please ensure that you attach the cover in the correct position, as otherwise the LEDs and sensors will be covered. The room controller box features WAGO interfaces. You can purchase suitable WAGO connectors from our product range. On the left-hand side of the room controller box, you'll find two 230-volt switching outputs. Use the black 3-pin connector to connect devices to these outputs. When connecting the cable, take note of the terminal designations on the connectors and on the room controller box. The DALI output can also be found on the left-hand side. For the DALI interface, please use the blue 5-pin connector. Using this output, the lighting can be supplied with power and controlled via the DALI bus system. The connection for the 230-volt power supply can be found on the right-hand side of the room controller box. To supply the room controller box with power, you can use the Shuko connector from our product range, for example. The room controller box must also be connected to a power supply via the green KNX connector. The CU-DIN PS960 power supply from Esilux can be used for this purpose. The KNX interface makes a problem-free communication with other KNX building automation systems possible. The grey connector is the 230-volt switching output for controlling thermoelectric valve actuators. Up to 8 valve actuators on a total of 2 channels can be connected to the room controller box via this connection. These valve actuators can be found in our product range. The RJ45 splitter is also available in our product range. This splitter is used to control additional devices via the INT bus. The signal can be converted using the EasyLux analog in-out module, for example to control the actuator for a heating valve or a ventilation flap. This function simply requires a separate power supply. The power supply can now be switched on again. Thanks to the predefined factory settings, the room controller box can be put into use without first being configured. ETS software or KNX know-how is therefore not required for configuration before you can start to use the room controller box. For devices that can't be programmed via ETS, the start sequence is as follows. 1. Activate the mechanical relay. 2. Deactivate the thermo output. 3. Local test for movement detection using the red LED behind the lens of the movement sensor. 4. Any DALI lights connected can be switched on or off and dimmed via binary input 1 and remote control input 1. However, configuration via ETS is advisable to take full advantage of all the functions of the KNX room controller, or to adjust the parameters to your individual requirements. The product database file for the CUC RCB KNX DALI WAGO can be downloaded from www.easylux.com. To configure the device via ETS, press and hold the switch and the mode buttons on the room controller box simultaneously. When the red KNX programming LED lights up, the room controller box is in programming mode. Optionally, you can hold a magnet to the front of the detector to start or end programming mode. A red LED will also light up on the detector when the programming mode is active. The device can be configured via the KNX bus system and the ETS software installed on a PC. The room controller box saves settings, meaning that the devices can also be configured in advance in a different location and then installed on site. Depending on the configuration, the room controller box controls the connected components independently. To control individual outputs manually, select the outputs using the Mode button. You can then activate or deactivate the corresponding channels via the Switch button. Changes can be made manually using the CAC Mobile CUC infrared remote control. Point the remote control to the multi-sensor and use the up and down buttons for remote control input 1 to control the brightness of the lighting. Shutter blinds can be controlled using the remote control input 2. On the right-hand side of the remote control, the temperature can be increased or decreased by up to 3 levels above or below the target value. A red LED flashes when the detector receives a signal from the remote control. The detector also features an LED to indicate either the heating or cooling status. Visit us at easylux.com for further information about our products.